Marie knew her stepmother was evil from the very first day Gerta walked into their lives. Most children feel that way when their father remarries after their mother passes away. They feel protective of their parent. They feel jealous of the new person taking their mother's place. But Marie's hatred for Gerta was not born from jealousy or sadness. It was born from the truth. Gerta was truly and completely evil. Marie saw it in her eyes. She saw it in the way Gerta smiled at her father with sugar-sweet words, while looking at Marie and her brothers with cold, blank stares when he turned away. Marie lived in a big house in Connecticut with her father, who was a very wealthy man. He owned several businesses and had investments all over the country. Money was never a problem in their home. Marie's mother had died when Marie was only 10 years old. Her brother Richard was 8, and her youngest brother Charles was just 6. Their mother had been kind and gentle. She read them stories every night. She baked cookies on Sundays. She made their house feel like a home filled with warmth and laughter. When she died from a sudden illness, the light seemed to go out of their home. Their father became distant and sad. He buried himself in his work. The children were left mostly in the care of nannies and housekeepers, who were kind enough but could never replace their mother. 2 years after their mother died, their father met Gerta at a charity event in New York City. Gerta was beautiful in a cold way. She had long, blonde hair that looked like spun gold. Her eyes were ice blue like a frozen lake in winter. Her skin was pale and perfect like porcelain. She wore expensive clothes and jewelry that sparkled under lights. She knew how to charm people. She knew how to say the right things. She knew how to make men like Marie's father feel young and desired again. Within 6 months, Gerta and their father were married. The wedding was large and expensive. Gerta invited all of her society friends. Marie and her brother stood in the ceremony wearing uncomfortable formal clothes and fake smiles. From the moment Gerta moved into their home, everything changed. She did not pretend to love the children. She did not even pretend to like them. When their father was around, she would pat their heads and speak in a sweet voice. But the moment he left for work, her face would change. Her smile would disappear. Her eyes would turn hard and mean. She made it clear that the children were in her way. They were obstacles between her and complete control of their father's fortune. Marie understood this even though she was only 12 years old. She saw the way Gerta looked at them, like they were problems that needed to be solved, like they were things to be removed. Gerta started small. She convinced their father that the children needed more structure and discipline. She said they were spoiled and needed to learn responsibility. Their father believed her because he trusted her. He was lonely, and Gerta made him feel loved again. So when Gerta suggested that Charles, the youngest, should be sent away to boarding school, their father agreed. Charles was only 8 years old. He was small for his age and had been sickly as a baby. He had asthma and allergies. He was shy and gentle, and loved to read books in his room. He needed love and care and protection. But Gerta chose a boarding school in Switzerland that was known for being harsh and strict. The school had a good reputation for academics, but it was also known for having mean older students who bullied the younger ones. The teachers were cold and demanding. The discipline was harsh. It was not a place for a delicate, sensitive child like Charles. But Gerta insisted it would make him strong. She told their father that Charles needed to toughen up, that he was too soft, that he would never survive in the real world if he did not learn to be harder. Their father believed her. He always believed her. So Charles was sent away. Marie watched her little brother cry as he packed his bags. She held him as he sobbed and begged not to go. She promised to write him letters every day. She promised to call him as much as she could. She promised that everything would be okay. But she knew in her heart that it would not be okay. She saw the satisfaction in Gerta's eyes as Charles was driven away to the airport. Marie felt sick to her stomach. She felt helpless. She was only 12 years old. What could she do against an adult woman who had complete control over their father? Charles was miserable at the school. His letters were heartbreaking. He wrote about being bullied by older boys. He wrote about teachers who yelled at him. He wrote about being cold and hungry and lonely. He begged to come home. Marie showed the letters to their father, but Gerta was always there to intercept. She would say that Charles was just being dramatic. that he needed time to adjust, that it was normal for children to be homesick. She convinced their father that bringing Charles home would be giving in to weakness. So Charles stayed at that horrible school for the entire year. Marie called Charles every chance she got. At first she could talk to him every few days. She would encourage him and tell him stories to make him laugh. She would remind him that summer was coming and he would be home soon. But then Gerta noticed the phone bills. She told their father that the international calls were too expensive. She restricted Marie to one 5-minute call per month. 5 minutes. That was all Marie was allowed to talk to her suffering little brother. It broke her heart. She wrote letters instead. Long letters filled with love and encouragement. But she never knew if Charles received them all. She suspected Gerta threw some of them away. When summer finally came and Charles returned home, Marie was shocked by what she saw. Her little brother, who had left looking pale but healthy, now looked like a ghost. He was thin, so thin that his clothes hung off his body like they were several sizes too big. His face was gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes that looked like bruises. His hands shook. He barely spoke. He seemed hollow inside, like something essential had been taken from him. Marie held him and cried. She begged their father to never send Charles back to that place. But Gerta was there with her calm voice and her reasonable words. She said Charles just needed a good summer to recover, that the school was good for him in the long run, that he would thank them when he was older. Their father believed her. He always believed her. When summer ended, Charles cried and begged not to go back. He actually got down on his knees and sobbed and pleaded. Marie had never seen anything so heartbreaking in her life. Their father looked uncomfortable, but Gerta put her hand on his arm and whispered something in his ear. Their father's face hardened. He told Charles to stop being dramatic, to be a man, to get up and pack his bags. Charles looked at Marie with eyes full of despair. She will never forget that look. It haunts her still. Marie convinced their father to let her visit Charles at the school. She saved up her allowance money. She researched flights. She made a plan. Their father agreed and bought her a ticket to Switzerland. Marie was so relieved. She would go see Charles. She would talk to the teachers. She would document everything. She would bring proof back to their father that the school was hurting Charles. Maybe then he would listen. Maybe then he would bring Charles home for good. Gerta was furious when she found out. Her beautiful face twisted into something ugly. Her blue eyes went cold as ice. Colder than Marie had ever seen them. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Gerta's pink lips pressed into a thin, bitter line. She did not yell. She did not scream. That was not Gerta's way. Instead, she smiled, a smile that did not reach her eyes. She told Marie how nice it was that she wanted to visit her brother, but there was a threat underneath her words. A promise. Marie felt chills run up her spine. She knew something bad was going to happen. She just did not know what. 2 days before Marie's flight to Europe, the phone rang. It was the school. There had been an accident. Charles had climbed to the top of the tallest tower on campus. It was an old stone tower that was normally locked, but somehow the door had been left open. Charles had climbed all the way to the top, and then he had jumped. He fell 5 stories onto the stone courtyard below. He died instantly. The school was very sorry. It was a terrible tragedy. They would investigate how he got access to the tower. They sent their deepest condolences. Their father was shocked. He sat in his study and stared at the wall for hours. He did not cry. He did not speak. He just stared. Marie screamed and sobbed. She threw things. She raged. How could this happen? Why was the tower unlocked? Why was no one watching him? Her brother had been crying for help for months, and no one had listened. Now he was dead, gone forever, and she would never see him again, never hear his voice, never hug him, never tell him how much she loved him. Gerta was quietly triumphant. She did not smile or celebrate. She was too smart for that. Instead, she played the role of concerned stepmother perfectly. She made all the funeral arrangements. She ordered flowers. She chose Charles's casket. She stood at the funeral in a black dress with her head bowed, looking appropriately sad. But Marie saw through it. She saw the satisfaction in Gerta's eyes. She saw the way Gerta's hand lingered on their father's arm possessively. One obstacle down, 2 to go. For a few months after Charles died, their father paid more attention to Marie and Richard. He seemed to wake up from whatever spell Gerta had put him under. He took them out to dinner. He asked about their days. He seemed to remember that he had children who needed him. Marie dared to hope that maybe her father was seeing Gerta for what she really was. Maybe Charles's death had opened his eyes. But Gerta was patient. She was beautiful and charming, and knew exactly how to manipulate their father. Slowly, she drew his attention back to her. She suggested romantic trips. She planned elaborate date nights. She whispered sweet things in his ear. And gradually their father's attention drifted away from his remaining children once again. Now Gerta focused on Richard. Richard was 14 and about to start high school. He was sturdy and athletic and loved sports more than anything. He played soccer and basketball and baseball. He was good at all of them. He had friends who were athletes. He dreamed of playing football in high school and maybe getting a college scholarship one day. He was exactly the type of boy who would have thrived at the harsh Swiss boarding school. The physical challenges would not have broken him. The strict discipline would have made him stronger. So, of course, Gerta sent him somewhere else, somewhere that would make him miserable. She convinced their father that Richard had artistic talent. She showed him some sketches Richard had done in art class. She told him that Richard had a gift that needed to be nurtured. She found a prestigious arts academy in New York that focused on music and painting and theater. It was expensive and exclusive and completely wrong for Richard. But their father believed her. He always believed her. Richard was sent to the academy. Richard hated it. He had to practice piano for hours every day. His fingers cramped. His back hurt from sitting on the piano bench. He had to learn violin, which made sounds like dying cats when he first started. He had to attend art classes and theater workshops. He was surrounded by kids who loved those things. Kids who had been training since they were tiny. Kids who lived and breathed art and music. Richard felt like a fraud. He felt trapped. He wanted to be outside running and throwing balls and competing. Instead, he was stuck inside, practicing scales and painting still lifes. But Richard was tougher than Charles had been. He was a survivor. He gritted his teeth and practiced. He forced himself to learn the piano and violin even though he hated every second. He painted pictures even though he had no passion for it. He got decent grades. He did not complain too much. He just endured. Marie was proud of him. She thought maybe Richard could outlast Gerta's cruelty. Maybe he could survive until he was 18 and could escape. But Gerta was clever. She was always thinking ahead, always planning. Gerta introduced Richard to 2 boys from a nearby high school. They were everything Richard wanted to be. They were popular and confident. They wore expensive clothes and drove nice cars. They were both on their school's football team. They talked about games and practices and victories. They treated Richard like a friend, like he was cool, like he belonged. Richard was drawn to them immediately. Finally, he had found people who understood him. People who liked the same things he liked. He started spending time with them on weekends. Gerta encouraged it. She said it was good for Richard to have friends outside the academy. She increased his allowance so he could keep up with them. She gave him more and more money. What their father did not know was that these boys were into drugs. It started small, just marijuana at parties. Richard tried it because he wanted to fit in. He wanted to be like them. Then it moved to pills, then harder stuff. The boys always had drugs, and they always shared with Richard. And Richard always had money to buy more. Gerta made sure of that. She kept increasing his allowance. She never asked what he spent it on. She knew exactly what he was spending it on. She was counting on it. Marie started noticing changes in Richard. He was more withdrawn. His eyes looked glassy. He slept at odd hours. He was irritable and moody. She tried to talk to him, but he brushed her off. He said he was fine. He said she was being paranoid. She wanted to tell their father, but she had no proof. And she knew Gerta would just make her look like she was being dramatic, like she was jealous that Richard had friends. So Marie watched helplessly as her brother spiraled downward. One afternoon, Marie came home from school and found the house strangely quiet. Their father was at work. Gerta was supposed to be at a charity luncheon. Marie went upstairs and noticed Richard's door was closed. That was not unusual, but something felt wrong. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again. Nothing. She tried the handle. The door was locked. Marie felt panic rising in her chest. She pounded on the door and called Richard's name. Still nothing. She ran downstairs and found a screwdriver. She came back up and forced the lock. Richard was on his bed. His lips were blue. His skin was gray. There were pill bottles scattered on the floor. He was barely breathing. Marie screamed. She called 911. She tried to remember CPR from health class. She tilted his head back and checked his airway. The paramedics arrived within minutes. They worked on Richard. They gave him oxygen. They loaded him onto a stretcher. Marie rode with them to the hospital, crying and praying. The doctors worked on Richard for hours, but it was too late. He had taken too much. His heart had stopped for too long. Richard was dead. Their father rushed to the hospital. He was devastated. He held Richard's hand and wept. The doctor told them that if Richard had been found even 10 minutes earlier, he would have survived. 10 minutes. That was all it would have taken. Marie felt rage burning in her chest. Where had Gerta been? Gerta had been home that day. Marie knew it. Gerta's car had been in the garage. Gerta had known Richard was in his room. Gerta had known he was in trouble. And Gerta had waited. She had waited just long enough to make sure Richard would die. Marie told her father this. She told him that Gerta had murdered Richard, that Gerta had introduced him to those boys knowing they did drugs, that Gerta had given him all that money, knowing what he would buy with it, that Gerta had been in the house when Richard was dying and had done nothing. Their father looked at Marie with anger in his eyes. He told her she was being cruel and irrational. He said she was trying to blame someone for a tragic accident. He told her to hold her tongue and never speak against Gerta again. Gerta stood behind him, looking sad and hurt, looking like a victim. But Marie saw the triumph in her eyes. Marie knew she was next. Gerta had killed Charles. Gerta had killed Richard. Now only Marie stood between Gerta and complete control of their father's fortune. Marie was 16 years old. She had 2 more years until she turned 18. 2 more years until she could legally leave and protect herself. She did not think she would survive that long. Not with Gerta planning her death. Marie decided she would run away. She had an aunt in New Jersey, her mother's sister. Aunt Ellen had always been kind to Marie. She had sent letters and gifts after their mother died. She had offered to let the children visit any time. Marie decided she would go to Aunt Ellen's house. She would hide there until she turned 18. Then she would figure out what to do next. But Marie could not just run away immediately. That would be too obvious. Gerta would search for her. Their father would call the police. Marie would be found and brought back. So Marie decided to be patient. She would be the perfect daughter. She would make Gerta think she was not a threat. She would wait for the right moment. Then she would disappear. From the moment Richard's body was found, Marie forced herself to change. She became a model child. She did all her homework on time. She got perfect grades. She was polite to Gerta and all of Gerta's society friends. She smiled when she was supposed to smile. She said thank you when she was supposed to say thank you. She went on all the family excursions, even the dangerous ones. Gerta planned a shark fishing trip in Florida. Marie knew this was a perfect opportunity for an accident. So Marie made sure to stay inside the boat cabin, claiming she was seasick. She stayed far away from the edge where Gerta could push her overboard. She was careful. So careful. Another time, Gerta took Marie shopping in New York City. They were waiting on a subway platform. It was crowded. Marie felt hands on her back. Hard hands, pushing. Marie stumbled forward toward the edge of the platform. She could hear the train coming. She could see the lights in the tunnel. She was going to fall onto the tracks. But at the last second, Marie twisted her body. She threw herself sideways instead of forward. She landed hard on the concrete platform. The train roared past inches from her face. People gasped and helped her up. Everyone thought she had tripped, but Marie had felt those hands. She knew Gerta had pushed her. She just could not prove it. Marie decided she needed to run away soon. Gerta was getting bolder. The next attempt might succeed. Marie started packing a small bag. Just essentials. Clothes. Documents. Money she had saved. She hid the bag in the back of her closet. She wrote a letter to Aunt Ellen explaining everything. She planned to mail it once she arrived in New Jersey. She was almost ready. Just a few more days. Then their father came to Marie's room one evening. His face was grave. He sat on her bed and took her hand. He told her he had terrible news. Aunt Ellen had died. She had been found in her home that morning. The police said it looked like she had been poisoned. Someone had put something in her tea. They did not know who. They were investigating. Their father was so sorry. He knew Marie loved her aunt. Marie stared at him in shock. Her last hope was gone. Her only escape was gone. Aunt Ellen was dead. Marie looked past her father and saw Gerta standing in the doorway. Gerta's face was sympathetic, but her eyes were cold, and there was a tiny smirk on her lips. Just the barest hint of a smile. Marie understood immediately. Gerta had known about Marie's plan. Somehow Gerta had found out about Aunt Ellen, and Gerta had killed her. Just like she had killed Charles and Richard. Gerta had hired someone to poison Aunt Ellen, to remove Marie's escape route, to trap Marie in this house. With her. That night Marie locked herself in her bedroom. She sat on her bed and tried to think. She could still run away, but she had no money, not enough to survive for long. She would need to finish high school, or she would never get a good job. She would be helpless and vulnerable. And Gerta would still be out there. If Gerta could hire someone to poison Aunt Ellen in New Jersey, then Gerta could hire someone to kill Marie anywhere. Running away would not save her. Marie needed a different solution, a permanent solution. Marie thought about her mother, her kind, gentle mother who had died too young. Her mother had told her stories when she was little, family stories passed down through generations. Most of them were just fairy tales. Stories about brave knights and beautiful princesses. But there was one story that was different. One story that her mother had told her very seriously. A story about a witch named Bloody Mary. The story went back many generations to when Marie's ancestors lived in a small village in Europe. There was a witch in that village named Mary. She had once been beautiful, but she had grown old. Her skin wrinkled. Her hair turned gray. Her beauty faded. She could not accept it. She became obsessed with staying young forever. She studied dark magic. She made terrible deals with evil forces. She learned a spell that would make her young and beautiful again. But the spell required blood, the blood of a child. Mary chose a little girl from the village, a distant ancestor of Marie's family. Mary lured the child to her cottage in the woods. She prepared to kill the child and use her blood for the spell, but the child's father discovered what was happening. He and the other men of the village broke into Mary's cottage. They saved the child just in time. They dragged Mary out and accused her of witchcraft. She was put on trial. She was found guilty. She was sentenced to burn at the stake. As the flames consumed her, Mary screamed curses. She cursed the men who had condemned her. She cursed their families. She cursed their mirrors. She said that anyone who spoke her name in front of those cursed mirrors would summon her vengeful spirit. She would come for them. She would drag them into the mirror with her, into the flames, into eternal torment. Then Mary burned to death, still screaming. The story became legend. It spread from that village to other villages. Over the years, it changed. Details were added and removed. Eventually, it became the Bloody Mary game that children played at sleepovers. They would stand in front of a bathroom mirror in the dark. They would chant Bloody Mary 3 times. They would scare themselves silly. But nothing ever happened. Because they did not know the real story. They did not know the true ritual. That knowledge was only passed down in certain families. The families descended from the original villagers. Marie's family. Marie's mother had told her the real ritual, how to truly summon Bloody Mary. You needed a mirror that belonged to one of the original families. A mirror passed down through generations. You needed black beeswax candles arranged in a specific pattern around the mirror. You needed to speak Mary's name a certain number of times in the original language of the village. You needed to do it by candlelight. And you needed to have someone standing in front of the mirror when you completed the ritual. Someone for Mary to take. Marie had never believed the story. It was just a creepy fairy tale. But now she had no other options. Gerta was going to kill her. There was no escape. No one would help her. Their father was completely under Gerta's spell. If Marie did nothing, she would die. So she decided to try the ritual. If it did not work, she would be no worse off than she already was. But if it did work, then Gerta would be gone, and Marie would be safe. Marie had a mirror that had belonged to her mother. It was an old mirror in an ornate gold frame. It had been in their family for generations. It hung in the living room above the couch. Marie knew it was one of the cursed mirrors from the original village. Her mother had told her so. Marie took her saved money and went to a specialty store. She bought black beeswax candles. Hand-dipped. Expensive. She bought enough to arrange around the mirror the way her mother had described. Their father was away on a business trip. He would be gone for 3 days. Gerta was going to a party that evening with her latest boyfriend. Yes, Gerta had a boyfriend. Probably several. She was cheating on their father constantly. But she was careful. Their father did not know. Marie waited until Gerta left for the party. Then she went to work. Marie arranged the black candles around the living room. She placed them at specific intervals. She made sure they would reflect in the big mirror behind the couch. She lit each candle one by one. As she lit them, she spoke words in the old language. Words her mother had taught her phonetically. Marie did not know what they meant. She just knew how to say them. The room filled with the smell of beeswax and something else. Something old and dark. The air felt heavy. Marie felt afraid, but she did not stop. She had come too far to stop now. Marie positioned herself so she would not be directly in front of the mirror when the ritual was complete. She opened a textbook and pretended to study. She waited. Hours passed. Finally, around midnight, she heard Gerta's car in the driveway. The front door opened. Gerta walked in wearing a tight red dress and high heels. Her blonde hair was perfect. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like a movie star. She saw Marie sitting in the living room surrounded by flickering black candles. Gerta raised one perfectly shaped eyebrow. Her lips curved into a mocking smile. She asked Marie if she was holding a séance. She emphasized the word little when she called Marie Little Marie. She knew Marie hated being called little. Gerta walked over to the mirror behind the couch. She looked at herself and started fixing her hair, primping, admiring herself. Marie felt her heart pounding. This was it. This was the moment. Marie said softly that she and Gerta needed to have a talk. Gerta laughed. She said they certainly did. She fluffed her long blonde hair behind her shoulders. She was still looking at herself in the mirror. Marie took a deep breath. She said that Gerta had killed her brothers, that Gerta had killed her aunt, but that Marie would not let Gerta kill her. Gerta laughed again, a cruel laugh. She said, as if Marie stood a chance against her. She was still admiring herself in the mirror, still primping. Marie spoke the witch's name. She spoke it in the old language, the way her mother had taught her. Once, twice, 3 times. For a moment nothing happened. Marie thought it had not worked, that it was just a story after all. But then the mirror changed. Inside the mirror, Gerta's reflection burst into flames. Real flames, bright orange and red. Gerta screamed and jumped back, but the flames were only in the mirror. The real Gerta was not on fire, but her reflection was burning. And then another face appeared in the mirror. An old face. A twisted face. The face of an ancient crone ruined by age and hatred and evil. It was Bloody Mary. Her skin was like old leather. Her eyes were black pits. Her mouth was a gaping hole filled with broken teeth. She looked at Gerta with pure malevolence. Marie ducked behind a chair. She did not want to be anywhere near the mirror. She peeked out from her hiding place and watched. Heat poured out of the mirror like standing in front of an open oven. The flames roared. Bloody Mary laughed. It was a horrible sound, like grinding bones, like screaming metal. The witch held out her skeletal arms toward Gerta. She crooned Gerta's name. "Come to me, Gerta, come to me." Gerta screamed in terror. Her beautiful face twisted in fear. Her skin began to blister from the heat. Red welts appeared on her perfect alabaster skin. She tried to run, but her feet would not move. It was like she was frozen in place. Bloody Mary reached out of the mirror. Her arms extended impossibly long. Her clawed fingers grabbed Gerta's shoulders. Gerta screamed again, a scream of pure horror. She tried to fight. She clawed at the witch's hands. But Bloody Mary was too strong. The witch pulled Gerta toward the mirror, toward the flames. Gerta's screams were cut off suddenly. One moment she was there screaming and fighting. The next moment she was being dragged into the mirror, into the flames, into Bloody Mary's arms. There was a flash of intense heat and light. Marie had to close her eyes. When she opened them again, the flames were gone. The mirror looked normal. Just a regular mirror reflecting the living room. Gerta was gone. Bloody Mary was gone. The only evidence that anything had happened was the smell of smoke and something else. Something like burnt hair and spoiled meat. Marie stood up on shaking legs. She looked at the mirror. It showed only the living room, the candles, the couch, herself. Nothing else. Gerta had been taken, dragged into whatever hell Bloody Mary inhabited. Marie should have felt guilty. She had just killed someone. She had used dark magic to murder her stepmother. But she did not feel guilty. She felt relieved. She felt safe for the first time in years. Gerta was gone. Gerta could never hurt her again. Marie blew out all the candles. She cleaned up. She put everything away. She went to bed and slept deeply for the first time since Charles had died. The next morning she called her father at his hotel. She said that Gerta had not come home last night. Her voice was concerned, worried. Their father was not pleased. He made some calls from his hotel room. He called Gerta's friends. He discovered quickly that Gerta had been seeing other men. Several other men. Her friends talked. They told him everything. About the boyfriends. About the affairs. About how Gerta laughed about fooling her rich old husband. Their father was furious. He hated infidelity. His first wife, Marie's mother, had been faithful and true. Gerta had betrayed him. He flew home immediately to confront her. But Gerta was missing. She had not been seen since the party. No one knew where she was. Their father assumed she had run away with one of her lovers. It fit the pattern. She was a cheating gold digger who had gotten what she could and moved on. Their father divorced Gerta without ever trying to find her. It was easy since she had no family in the area, no one who cared about her, no one who would ask questions. The cover story was simple. Gerta had run away with another man. Everyone accepted it. Why would they not? It made perfect sense. Rich woman cheats on rich husband and runs away. Tale as old as time. No one looked for Gerta. No one filed a missing person report. Gerta was simply gone, erased from their lives. Marie and her father were finally safe. Their father started paying attention to Marie again, really paying attention. He seemed to wake up from a long nightmare. He apologized for not listening to her about Charles and Richard. He said he had been a fool. He said he had let grief and loneliness cloud his judgment. He promised to be a better father. And he was. He and Marie grew close again. They had family dinners. They talked about their days. They remembered her mother and her brothers with love and sadness. Marie never told her father the truth about what happened to Gerta. She never told him about the ritual or Bloody Mary or the mirror. He would not have believed her anyway. And it did not matter. Gerta was gone. That was all that mattered. Sometimes late at night, Marie would walk past the mirror in the living room, the mirror that had swallowed Gerta. She would look at her reflection and wonder if somewhere behind the glass Gerta was still screaming, still burning, still paying for what she had done. Marie never spoke Bloody Mary's name again. She never lit black candles again. She never told anyone the family secret. When she grew older and had children of her own, she did not teach them the ritual. That knowledge died with her. Some doors should stay closed. Some things should stay buried. Marie had opened that door once out of desperate necessity, but she would never open it again. The mirror stayed on the wall. A reminder. A warning. And Marie lived the rest of her life in peace, knowing that evil had been answered with evil, and that sometimes the only way to stop a monster is to summon something worse.